Welcome, gamers, to this week's episode of Last Call Gaming. We're on episode number 164. My name is Craig Perales. This handsome fellow is Mandrew Montsmayer. Today is April 3rd, and we're coming back after, unfortunately, missing another week. Just to put it in context, I had a wedding to go to for my aunt. Me and Geno were there. We had a blast, a lot of fun. I know Andrew was still able to put up, we gave you something while you guys for that insatiable appetite. Andrew put up a couple runs of his Resident Evil 4, but I know you had something to say on it.
Oh yeah, I want to apologize because one, it didn't go through correctly. I don't know what happened to my computer because when I was streaming, first my audio stopped working. It was like frozen down there, and then the game audio stopped working. Ooh. And then that night I was like, all right, it's like 2. I think it was like 2 when I stopped. I was like, I'll hit it hard in the morning. I woke up at like 10 to go start streaming, and my computer said no hard drive detected. So I had to order a new one. I just barely got it the other day. So it's already almost up and going, and hopefully maybe I'll try to give you guys a different sort of a run. But that's kind of what we had planned for the weekend because I knew he was going to be gone, that I was supposed to fill in, and I kind of dropped the ball. But
it was the life of a streamer.
It was out of my hands.
So apologies, guys, again. Hope you guys had a fun and interesting weekend.
If you hate us, let us know in the comments.
Hey, double comment. Just leave as many comments as you can. So, with that being said, guys, if you're watching the YouTube version of the show, make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe, hit the share, and hit that notification bell. If you guys are interested in following us on any of our Linktree link, or any of our social media, check out our Linktree link, which is in the description of the YouTube video and the details in the audio podcast. And if you're listening to the audio-only version of this podcast, you guys can find it on any podcast platform of your choice. So, with that down out of the way, guys, Andrew would like to do, what are you up to? We take a second and talk about what we've been playing, what we've been watching. Since I know your main game is our main topic, you got a quick one, right? What you've been watching?
Yeah, the only thing I've been watching so far at home, personally, is still cruising through Big Bang. But I did go and see John Wick 4, and it is so good. Oh. Like, I love it. I definitely want to go see it again. I probably will go see it again. And once it comes out on, like, some sort of streaming service or something like that, it's gonna be one of those movies where I'm watching like all the time. It is so good. I think one of my favorite parts of it is actually Bill Skarsgård, who you wouldn't know because you're too afraid to watch it, but he plays.
I know who he is.
He plays Pennywise. I forgot that he was in here, and then he ends up being like a villain, and he is so good. I was like, man, dude, like I absolutely loved him. And then the more I think about it, I'm like, you know what? I know there's like 2 other brothers that I think they're in acting. The only one I know is the one that plays Floki in
one of them plays Tarzan in that new action.
I haven't seen that. Him. I think he's the only one I haven't seen anything of, but the other one plays Floki in Vikings. I'm like, man, dude, what a talented family. They're all so good, and they're some of the best parts of everything that they're in.
Yeah, that whole family is like, I know some like acting, like, I don't want to say prodigies, but they're definitely like legacies in it. What character did he play? He plays Marcus? Is it Marquis?
Marquis.
And is this, I mean, no spoilers,
it's
but
Marquis.
Is it set up for, is there going to be a 5 or is 4, I mean, could it end here and it's not required?
They could end it here and it would be fine. I know they're talking about making more, and I have some ideas for like how they could do that or how they could explain certain things. I think that they will make more, especially because this movie absolutely smashed at the box office. And like I said, it was so good. Like for a movie that's like 3 hours long, I felt like I was in there for like 30 minutes. And that's how you know you're like having a blast. I'm like, man, dude, this is so good.
Yeah, that time just flies by. Yeah, I definitely want to go see it. I definitely want to catch it in theaters. So that'll be a run that I have to go do.
I know, I forgot who it was asked me the other day, like, what order would you put them in? And I don't think any of them are crazy better than each other, but I would have to go like 4, 3, 2, 1. One really set it off and maybe had kind of a lower budget, and then it's just they learned what they were doing a little bit more with, okay, well, we did this with guns. How can we take the cool weapon gunplay to the next level, to the next level, to the next level?
Right, keep adding new
so it's almost like if one was like a 96 to 97, 98, 99, like they would all be, catch me on the right day, I might like one more than the other, but they're all just like that. Like, I think it's insane. I would call this one of those things we always try to think of where it's like a perfect what's a perfect trilogy, but this is taking that a step further now. Like, I don't know what you call it, like a quadology or something like that. A perfect 4 movies that there is not a bad one in them.
Gotcha. So as far as what I have been watching, I haven't really gone out and watched any new movies. So what I was sitting at home watching was History of the World Part 2, which came out on March 6th. You can watch it on Hulu. The original History of the World Part 1 came out in 1981. So this is like a 40-plus years sequel. And originally I thought it was a movie that Part 2 was, because the first one's a movie. I guess either I missed it or I forgot that it's actually a show that they're doing. And it's based, I think right now it's into 8 episodes. And it's got Mel Brooks in it, obviously, who's the creator, the guy that did Spaceballs, Robin Hood Men in Tights, right? So his comedy is the best.
So nobody good.
Yeah, no, he's fantastic. But he's the narrator, and it kind of, this thing has like over 150 people in cast because there's so many different little, like what it does is it follows these different little episodes, and you get guys like Nick Kroll and Wanda Sykes, and I never remember this guy's name, Ike Barinholtz. They're in a bunch of different ones, but then there's a lot of people like Jake Jones who are only in like one episode of it. But I gotta say, it's not getting the best of reviews. I think on average, people are liking it. I would say this: there's parts in this movie or the show that are hilarious. Like I'm laughing out loud, and I had to stop it, rewind it just to watch the scene again. There's other parts where I'm like, skip. Like the one dude that plays Abraham Lincoln in this, dude, hilarious. So if you guys were interested and just kind of forgot it was out like I did, it's on Hulu. You can check that out now. As far as what I've been playing, I just beat this game called Until Dawn, developed by Supermassive Games, published by Sony. It came out in 2015. It was an exclusive for the PS4 at the time. Now, what's funny is our friend of the show, Sammy Starbucks, she was telling me to play. See, now I'm forgetting the name again. It's Days Gone. She was telling me to play that game, and I couldn't remember it in my head. I'm like, I know, and that's why I heard Until. And when I read it when it was on PlayStation, I was like, Until Dawn. I'm like, that sounds like what she was kind of saying, and it's completely different game. Essentially, it's this game where 8 friends are trapped together on a remote mountain retreat, and they're not alone. And you got to solve this. So a year before when the game starts and you get to play the prequel, these 2 sisters go missing. A year later, everyone goes back to kind of put closure on it. It's really good stuff. It's got 10 chapters in it. It's kind of like a choose your own adventure. The goal is to get everyone to survive, and I almost did it. And I'm told it's hard to do unless you're following a guide to get out with everybody. But I don't really chase trophies on PlayStation or Nintendo, obviously, because I like to just play them. So I'm like, okay, let me just see what I can do. I ended up losing one guy, and it was because of a dumb choice where earlier somebody was like telling me to do something, like begging me to do it, and I do it. And then later on, it cost me because that person was pissed that I did that to him. I'm like, oh man, I knew I shouldn't have done that. So I ended up losing one. I would gently compare it to like a Telltale game or Life is Strange. But like when you play those games, those decisions are more like, are you going to go left or right? Are you going to side with this person or this person? Where this game, you can actually... So I got a lot of my guys to the end. If you can lose somebody in the first chapter, the second chapter, and your whole game instantly is going to change now because that person, that dialogue, their choices are no longer going to be in the future chapters. So on that end, this game is much better. I'd actually think this is something you would really enjoy.
Yeah, I'm surprised. I'm glad you're playing more horror games and getting out there. But yeah, I had seen this when it came out. And it reminds me more of like I forget the name of his studio right now, but like a David Cage, like Become Human or Beyond Two Souls. Well, not so much Beyond Two Souls, but like Becoming Human would be one of those ones where you make a choice and it like branches off that actually like does something
human.
more than a Telltale. So but a horror version of that.
It's definitely on that. It's got a great cast too. That's one thing I did want to point out because it actually grabs some stars. It's got Hayden Panettiere's in it. She's awesome. It's got Rami Malek, Academy Award-winning Rami Malek.
Oh, I didn't know he was in that one.
He's the main brother. The guy that plays Satan in Constantine. He's the psychiatrist guy, Peter Stormare.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
So once I started watching, I'm like, oh wow! And if you finish it, there's a ton of like behind the scenes stuff of how they made it, and the cast and putting all the dots on them and how they captured the footage.
The mocap.
Yeah, it's really super interesting stuff. So if you guys haven't played it and you've got your PlayStation, because again, they're not first party. There are other games that they do because they're big. They're known for They did, what was the big one that I was
looking at? Quantic Dream? Is that
Supermassive?
Is that what I'm thinking of?
So they did Quantic Dream, yeah. They did Killzone HD, and their biggest thing right now is they're doing the Dark Pictures anthology, which there's a bunch of those. Yeah. And they just did the game The Quarry, which was about the tropes of like guidance counselors out there. So I had a lot of fun with it. So definitely, guys, check it out. And leave down in the comments below what you guys have been playing, what you've been watching. Let us know if we have missed anything. So With that down and out of the way, guys, let's move into our main topic, and that is that Resident Evil 4, the remake, is now officially out.
The GOAT!
The GOAT. It came out March 23rd, developed and published by Capcom. This game is getting a ton of praise. Generally speaking, every outlet is hitting this thing with 90% and higher. IGN is already giving it a 10, and it's fair to say that I would say everybody remembers Resident Evil 4. If it's not one of the best, they consider it to be the best game out of the Resident Evil 4 franchise. So before we dive into the gameplay, because we'll kind of break that down a little bit, and just to put it in context, Andrew's beaten the game so far. I'm still pretty early on, so you'll kind of get it from two different angles. But as these remakes are coming out, do you think it's being flooded that people are just getting nostalgic hit with now these upgraded games like Dead Space, for example, where they're remembering it and going, wow, now it's better? Or does this game stand on its own 2 feet, being a standalone game, remake aside, and it's earned these accolades? So what do you think about that?
I think both of them deserve to, like, they both stand on their own 2 legs. Like, Dead Space really needed it a lot more than Resident Evil 4 did, and they delivered. And that's what I was thinking when Resident Evil 4 came out. I'm like, well, how do you really kind of make this better? I know there's a couple areas that I don't like, but how do you make the gameplay, the overall feeling, the overall front to back feel better? And somehow they did, man. Like, it stands on its own. After playing this, I don't know that I could go back and play the original Resident Evil 4.
Oh, really?
Without feeling like, oh man, I just
even
not feeling
even
this.
the updated one, like you talking about, like, okay, even
even the updated one, any of them. This is the definitive way to experience this game now.
Awesome. So it's safe to say that this game is doing well. And one of the things I just kind of wanted to point out is just how much it's been selling. And is this the right one that I had here? Okay, yeah. So this comes to us from PC Games, and it says, in a press release, developer and publisher Capcom announces that the newly released Resident Evil 4 remake sales numbers topped 3 million units in its first 2 days after its release. That's a huge start. For comparison, Resident Evil Village's 6.1 million sales in 11 months made it Capcom's fastest selling Resident Evil game at the time by its own metric. So their best selling one in 11 months. This game's already at half of that in 2 days, 3 days?
I think it'll pass it for sure.
Yeah, so there's a little bit more on this article that kind of gets into the sales of other games. The link will be in the description. But yeah, man, it's hitting the sales number. I mean, it did well for Capcom.
I do want to say, too, they did put out another release, too, saying that because this game's done so well, and as proof that it's done so well, that Capcom stocks are, like, at an all-time high.
Yeah, dude. How cool is that? This is the old franchise that put you on the map back in the day for a lot of people. They're in this resurgency of bringing them back, and they're just killing it with the same franchise, just making it bigger, better, badder.
Yeah, I think that's the insane part, is you come out with originally the Resident Evil remake for GameCube, and people were like, man, that's like the standard for remakes. And then you reinvent what the remake is supposed to be, and it's still considered the standard now. That's just how much talent they have. It's insane. Nice.
So let's dive a little bit into the game. So on my end, I'm not going to dive too much into pros and cons because I'm not that far. So I'll just speak at it from someone who's kind of just starting it. I actually recently just came off of beating Resident Evil 2 at the end of last year. I think it was like late October. And then I just beat Resident Evil 3 last month. So going from 2 to 3 to 4, I got to say this game looks clean. I know this is their own engine, right? It's the RE engine that they're doing it. This thing runs great, looks great. I guess I would say what I've noticed is that compared to 2 and 3, I remember those ones clearly you could kind of run past more enemies and you can kind of clear out areas. But in this one, I'm finding that when you want to go kind of find everything, I feel like there's no more really running past them. I feel like you're taking in these big hordes. So in that way, I feel like this game is a lot more action-based than I would call it a shooter game. So from that aspect, is that exactly how you remember RE4 being? Or have they kind of taken that and just ran with what was working?
I mean, that was a big thing at the time for this too when it originally came out was, it's a departure from the horror because now you're kind of focused into these confrontations. There's some areas you can run past, but for the most part, you're going to be fighting a lot more than you've done in the previous games. And I mean, that's just how the original one was too. So yeah, this game has always been known for being more action than horror, but still kind of keeping that horror.
Yeah, even at the same time, there's other parts of the mission where I remember I'm sneaking. There's parts where I'm sneaking around. You know what I mean? It's not so much as I'm running to go through area like I pretty much was mainly doing in Resident Evil 3. I feel like I'm either punching my way or shooting my way through one level, and then the next level, like I'm actually sneaking down, crouching, trying to get by people, doing stealth kills. And I don't know if you want to point out a couple maybe changes from the combat from the old one to this one, but I was reading that I know now there's more knife durability, or at least he can stack his knives more, and I think the inventory is a little bit bigger than what you could carry in the original one. So any big differences in the gameplay compared to the old to new?
I mean, that would be one of the biggest ones, would be the stealth mechanic, that if you have a knife, you can sneak up behind someone and stab them and like one hit kill them, because that is not in the original. And then, yeah, I thought the knife durability, when I had heard about it, was that it was going to be bad. I was like, that doesn't that good of an idea, but it focuses you more on like, okay, now this is broken, I can't just sit here maybe abuse it, or I can't stealth the whole village, like what am I going to do now? So now you're focused more on the gunplay, but you can repair your knife if you want to when you go to the merchant, or there's other little knives that you'll find, they're just kind of almost like a little defensive knife. It'll be like a kitchen knife or something like that, and those have less durability than your regular one, but the knife is now an upgradable item. As far as the case goes, I think it does get a little bit bigger because you kind of are holding a little bit more, but once you make it a little bit further, there's a shooting range that's in here.
It's an achievement.
That's in the original one, but the difference is now when you do it, the guy gives you tokens, and you can use those tokens at like a little gumball machine, and it gives you charms. And you put those charms on your case, and you can have up to 3 of them, and the charms do different things. So like if you heal with an item...
Is that the one we got for pre-ordering? It's like it'll give you more gold or something? Is that what you're putting on it?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Or like the pistol ammo or whatever that's down there at the bottom. We have the gold attached case where like it you change the whole case color, and so you find more pesetas. But there's these little charms that you can put at the bottom of it that, like, if you use a healing item, it will 100% it heals you with an additional 100%. You get a discount from a merchant, a discount on rocket launchers. Others make you, like, move faster. So I know that's something people are, like, trying to figure out, like, now in the speedrunning community. So it there are a lot of changes that made to this game, especially on the back end for like how you can speedrun it, that it's like insane.
So I know that because you can now move and shoot in this one, when the first one you couldn't, right? Are you noticing that any of the headshots are just a little more, I mean, because I'm playing it on standard, and I know on easy I believe there's like a better aim assist, but when you're going in those harder modes, is it harder to hit them as easy as it used to be? Because I'm seeing now when I'm trying to aim, like these guys, because they're not just zombies, you know, they're actually kind of moving around and they'll start running. So I'm feeling like maybe, because I haven't turned down my difficulty yet, but it's like, I feel like I'm wasting maybe 1 or 2 shots here and there because they're just faster and they're bobbing and weaving.
That is another big thing too. Is now like all your guns don't come standard with the laser, so you can't really like, you have your reticle, but when someone's attacking you, or to balance that option of now that you can move while you're reloading, you can move while you're shooting. Some of your shots as you're shooting, or if you're getting swung at, or you're moving while you're shooting, will just sail off wide. Man, there's I found playing on standard, like, it was a good difficulty. I had, like, died, I think. I died a few times. I found myself, like, actually having to run and play the game instead of, all right, let me just create this choke point, shoot one guy after another. Like, it actually was a fair challenge, and I found myself a lot of times that I'm playing, I'm like, dude, there's no way I'm missing this shot, but I'm backing up and trying to shoot this guy at the same time while going left because there's someone over here on my right, so my shots are just like going all over the place. I'm like, all right, man, I need to like refocus my centering and like really get it.
The other thing I wanted to bring up, because obviously you've beaten it now, it was showing that the new development team, they were split into 3 different groups when they were working on this to do the village, the astle, and the island. Were those the original 3, I don't want to say biomes, but kind of places and locations? Have you noticed anything they've been cutting out or adding that just strengthens the game?
I feel like the village is almost... It's a little bit different, but for the most part, it's the same. The biggest differences I think you're going to find are in the castle and especially the island. I know a lot of people before like hated the island. I kind of didn't like the castle, especially going on like the back end of it too. That I've beaten it twice, once normally through and then once on professional with like the rocket launcher, just speedrunning it. And I love playing that back end just as much as I love playing the first end. I remember before playing, I'm like, man, dude, I hate the island. The island sucks. It's always been the worst part. That you can really tell that they took the best ideas, kept them there, and then just learned to streamline the others. That they kept a lot of the big parts that felt like like the hedge maze is an iconic part of the castle. If you've played it before, you know exactly what I'm talking about. That's still here, but done differently. But then there's other areas that feel familiar, and you remember maybe crossing through one part of it, but the rest of the room is designed differently. That you're like, okay, I get this and I understand it. And again, it just feels more streamlined. I absolutely love the map design. I think it's so much better now.
Awesome. Well, that's probably about as far as I'm going to take it. I haven't dived too much further into it. So, Andrew, at this point, if there's anything else you want to go over with anyone that's maybe willing to check it out, maybe like a Geno or something like that, would you, talk about combat, talk about story beats, characters, whatever you want?
I highly recommend this game. Get out there and get it today, especially if you're sitting on the fence. I know people were saying, like the Xbox 360, I was reading online saying that they were having, not problems, but before the game came out, that the aiming isn't quite right. I don't have a problem aiming or anything. That isn't my fault. So don't listen to that. Get out there and try it for yourself. This game is absolutely great. I don't want to spoil anything for anyone, but the story changes that they've made make absolute sense and more. Like, do into some things, but just certain things in different ways, and it might be almost the same story beat. It's completely different how you get there. And I'm like, man, that makes so much more sense. It fits so much better. And they've really taken this game. Leon still kind of got that lighthearted where he's saying, oh, where's everyone going? Bingo. And making his quips and jokes like that. But they've made this game in line with the others in the match of tone and keeping it really dark. And I love a lot of the changes that they made to this, especially Ashley. Ashley doesn't feel like she's really annoying. I actually really like the banter between her and Leon a lot too. Even still, like if you have her with you and you happen to go like the shooting gallery, she'll just sit there on like a little barrel or something, and she'll be talking like as you're shooting, like, oh, great shot, that was good, you're the best. I'm like, man, I have my own cheerleader here, like I'm really doing good right now, like nice. This feels great. I think the only negative I really have to say about this game, and again, it's 10 out of 10, this is just me griping, is as you're playing, it kind of has that familiar, I don't want to say hand-holdy, but like Tomb Raider, or I'm trying to think of what some other games do it, like they'll just slather stuff in paint so you know, oh, this is breakable, or I need to go this way. I'm sure you've noticed it, like the yellow paint that's on stuff. But when and it's, what's more jarring about it is at the beginning when you're in the village, there's lots of barrels everywhere, and you break them open, boxes, that's how you get stuff. When you get to the castle, it's vases that you're breaking everywhere, like little vases, big, tall kind of vases. They're not painted. It just looks like a really good done vase, and you know that it's breakable. I don't know why they just couldn't do that with the barrels, and maybe make the barrels like a different shade of brown than one that's like not normally breakable. And that's my only gripe I have about this, is I hate seeing that it's like
video gamey at that point.
Yeah, it's like it's a bunch of yellow ugly paint slathered across a direction you're supposed to go. These barrels, if an area is climbable or not. And sometimes, it does help me find an area, like a window where I'm supposed to boost Ashley up and over. But it's like, I really could have figured that out.
Nice. So at this point, overall, I got to say, so far, solid for me. Andrew's giving it a 10 out of 10. The real conversation is going to be, at the end of the year, when we're talking Game of the Year, there's something like Dead Space, where I never played the original one. So for me, that game was such a new experience that was just, like, breathtaking and mind-blowing, where RE4, I think a lot of people are going to lean on that this game's great, but it's a little familiar, and like me coming off of 2 and 3 back-to-back, going into 4, like it's still great. And again, once I beat it, maybe my perspective will change once I kind of do more boss fights and see more of the gun combos and things like that. But for now, for me, I still think Dead Space is the better game, but I haven't beaten it yet. So would you still say, are you putting them on the same pedestal? Or are you putting one over the other?
I think Resident Evil 4 is by far better.
By far. So you're taking leaps and bounds.
Yeah, like just what they've done, and not even in terms of how they changed it your first playthrough. The changes they've made as far as like certain ways you can speed run or cut things out on your second playthrough. Like that's really thinking about that kind of community. Or he's earned his stars and traps. How can we make it so just an example at the beginning, I told you about this already. At the beginning, when you go into the village, you can't do it on your first playthrough because it's too hard, but on your second playthrough, there's the church bell. You can actually see it in the distance. So as everyone's chasing you, you can get on a roof, shoot the church bell, and you'll end that fight early versus having to fight everyone and sit out there and keep fighting everybody. And I was like, man, dude, that's super creative. I never would have thought to do that. I don't know how this guy figured out how to do that, but I think that's just something really cool and inventive as a way to keep that new playthrough fresh.
Nice. So, hey, I guess that's going to be up to you guys to give your opinion, but you you can tell right now that when the Game of the Year conversation is coming up, both of those two games are probably going to be talked about.
I do want to say, especially for anyone just starting in like you, I kind of almost felt a little bit like that at first. It's like, this feels... It's really, really good. I'm loving it. It's a little familiar. But once I was kind of halfway through the village area, that's when it kind of takes off.
That's
and
what
the
I'm
difference
hoping for,
is, and once you get into like the castle and everywhere else, that's when you're like, okay, man, now this is really... I can see the big differences here now. And that's when it really takes off for me. Whereas Dead Space kind of was like different and a lot better right out the gate. This took a little bit, but I think that's maybe more to get you familiar with, okay, this is how it's going to control, this is how it's going to play now, this is how it's going to feel, and then we're going to, just go up and not stop.
And who's going to win? We shall see. So, thank you for that, guys, and leave your comments down below of what you guys think of Resident Evil 4 Remake and its awesome success that it's getting, and so far well-deserved. So, with that down out of the way, guys, let's move into our second main topic, and that is Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. Just had some new gameplay that dropped in March. It showed off a lot of new abilities. It was played by Eiji Aonuma, who was the producer of the Zelda series. Now, you can tell in this, and a lot of people were originally, I know, trying to figure out, but, is this the same Hyrule? So far, it does look like it's the same Hyrule, just obviously in the future a tad, and that there's new things that people are, discovering, like these sky islands appear and things like that. But the big 10 minutes was kind of really showing off the new abilities that Link is going to be getting. So I just kind of want to go through those real quick, and we can kind of discuss them and just see how much it's either going to improve or not improve the game. So this comes from Polygon, and it says, Nintendo's March gameplay demo provided an in-depth look at Link's new abilities, and they could change everything. These abilities impact both combat and traversal. Let's see. Recall, Fuse, Ultra Hand, and Ascend. Recall rewinds object movement, handy for traveling to Hyrule's Sky Islands. Weapon fusing lets you make new weapons out of objects, like fusing a stick and a rock to make a hammer. Ultra Hand, which glues objects together, can be used to make vehicles. And Ascend is a tool allowing Link to move through ceilings. Now, we got to just put it out there that I haven't beaten Breath of the Wild. I've played it. Did you ever even start it?
No, I've seen a lot of it, but I've never played it.
Yeah, because I was never into the whole objects breaking, climbing up, losing stamina. To me, that's not Link and that's not Zelda. But I know, I'm on the minority where a lot of people consider Breath of the Wild to be one of the greatest games of all time, right? A lot of people put it up as it was a lot of people's game of the year. So, with that being said, everything I saw in this one kind of looks like they're getting rid of the stuff that would have made someone like you or I maybe pass on it, or things that I didn't like. So, let's start with Recall first, because that's going to be the main ability that kind of... Did you watch the whole 10-minute trailer? Okay, so Recall is this ability. So, when he's playing it, they're kind of looking at it, and he's going, okay, well, how do we get up to there? How do we get up to these high places? And you see this big rock fall, and you go find it, and Recall will be the ability to kind of reverse its timeline. So he's using that to go all the way back up to these sky islands. And I think he was saying that there's going to be other things you can do. I'd imagine that's going to be a big puzzle mechanic. Like if he's in a cave and rocks fall or something, he's going to have to rewind it. Little Sands of Timey. But already, that's already a cool ability. It kind of seems like it's focused on what it's supposed to do. But what'd you think of Recall for the first ability?
I thought it was kind of cool, especially as a way to... I was like, how are like you going to get up there without like warping or something like that? So I like the idea of that it's not just like, oh, well, here's some generic warp portal from A to B.
Right, and you actually still got to go find it. You got to go, get off your high horse and then jump on it and do it.
I like more the idea, so of like, if I'm just traveling or something, I might not know it's there, and then maybe I'll see it in the distance, because you see it falling, and then it's cool. Like a big blue light, and I'm like, oh, that would be pretty cool, because again, that's more like a visual thing. I could be off doing whatever and see that in the distance, like, oh, that's really cool. Maybe that's how I get up there. I'll go check that out now.
And that's the other thing. I'm curious of how long they will stay down there. Like, if you don't see it, are a bunch of these rocks just going to be things you can come across, or is there going to be a time limit, like a countdown on them, of being like, okay, this thing's been here for 5 minutes, nobody's seen it, we'll do another drop, so if he's driving by, he'll see it. So that one looked cool, and I guess, again, I see it as a big puzzle mechanic. But the next one that I think everybody kind of thought was the coolest was they now have that fuse ability, which essentially he shows off that he has like this stick and he's fighting monsters with it, and it's breaking, right? And that's the age-old gripe with number one. But now what you can do is you can fuse them together. So for example, he uses the stick and the rock, and he makes like a hammer, like a sledgehammer out of it. and the durability instantly goes up. The damage instantly goes up, and this thing's not breaking after 4 hits. It's smashing the enemies in 2. That's going to be cool, because the other thing they did was he had like a long stick, and he fused it with a pitchfork to make kind of like a long jousting type weapon.
Yeah,
so
distance.
I can see that being a lot of fun, and just way cool to do, because the whole thing was like, go explore of what you can meld these things with.
I liked more so the idea where he had like the shield and then he fused the mushroom thing or whatever to it, so that way it's like a smoke bomb. Or even some of the enemies have different things. There's like one on a sky island, so it's you kind of have to be aware of your surroundings, where he has this weapon that's shaped like a fan, and so when he swings and hits at you, even if you're guarding, it'll knock you back. And it ended up blowing him off the side of the island, and then he's like, oh man, that sucks. All right, I'm gonna fly down and go do whatever now. So I'm like, okay, that's a lot cooler now too than like maybe getting thrown off or something. Now I have to really consider my placement as I'm fighting this person.
Yeah, and the other thing I forgot they were showing off is what he can do with the arrow. Like when he was, you can look at items, and there was a guy in the distance. He put like a frost element on it, and he froze them. He was saying that there was some birds, like if you're trying to hunt, that his eyes weren't as good as they used to be, and he couldn't hit the bird, so he would equip that eyeball, and it was like a homing device.
Yeah,
like,
that one was really cool.
Really cool. The only thing and I don't know if they actually showed it, is I hope the recipes stay there. So I hope it's not every time I go in there and go, oh yeah, what did I do
have to remember what it does.
I hope there's a thing that says, oh, do you want the homing device? Since you've already made it, it's with this and this, and then you can make like 12 of those arrows or something like that. So I think that's going to be a super cool idea, and it looks fun, because that's only the tip of the iceberg of what you're actually going to be able to do. The other ability was the Ultra Hand. Now, they were showing in the trailer that he was flying on these vehicles and things like that, and what he was saying is that's not in the game. Like, it's something you have to build. So they are adding this whole new kind of crafting thing, and in the trailer or the gameplay demo, they were showing that he's putting like logs together, and then he's adding like turbo fans on the back of them, and essentially making like a makeshift boat. That's kind of cool too, because I wonder what else are you going to be able to kind of put together. So I
kind of hate having to build things. So I'm
I don't want to do this, but if it's something that's required, at least it's something that's like, it's like at least you're customizing what it is.
I'll just really have to kind of see what it is. I was like, that's a cool idea. I just don't want to have to be doing this every 10 minutes. Like, okay, I crossed the river. Now I got to build something else to get up this mountain. I got to build something to get across this valley. But my big thought too was seeing how like speedrunners did whatever in the first one to break the game. I was like, man, I can't wait to see what kind of crazy stuff people are going to build to like launch themselves to like the end game or something like that. I'm like, man, that's really going to be insane when that comes out.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that too, because that's one of the things I remember, because I rewatched it today, and I'm like looking at him like because he's already taken a while crafting this thing. I'm like, how often are you going to have to do this? And can't you just swim across? Like, he built a boat to go across, like something that, I get it that it's faster. I was more interested in seeing like when he started building like the cars that were kind of flying. I'm like, oh, that's gonna be kind of cool if you can build those, and then you can just start ripping across. But I don't even know. Yeah, what's the durability on those? What's the time frame? But
I thought that was the funniest thing. Is he's like, this river is really wide. I'm like, not really. It's not that big a river. I've seen him swim across bigger.
Yeah, and then the final one, which I think a lot of people are gonna enjoy too, is the Ascend ability, which essentially, so when you're climbing the mountains, you have a stamina bar, and I guess a lot of people back in the day were falling, or you really had to time these things out, where now the ability is, and he said there's restrictions, but generally speaking, as long as there's a cave top roof on it and an entry point, you can use this ability to pretty much just ascend yourself up, travel through the ceiling, and get to the top. I'm like, well, that's good. What a time saver.
Yeah, that was my big thing. I'm like, okay, cool. I'm glad that you guys really listened to the fact that people like didn't want to be climbing this thing, have to take a break, then climb. Like, it's so much faster to do that and more convenient. I'm like, okay, cool. This world's already big enough. Like, I don't need to be wasting 40 minutes climbing a mountain when I could just, do whatever.
Get in and get out. But that was pretty much all the stuff it was showing off. I mean, I do want to point out that the release date is still, as far as I can tell, May 12th, 2023. At the end, they were showing off that there's going to be an OLED bundle, which was the new white one that comes out on 4/28, and then I think they were showing there was a new Pro controller that comes out on 5/12. So if you're looking to get a new Switch, I mean, that might be the time to get it. If you're looking for a nice themed controller, that's coming out. Did any of that catch your eye?
Probably not. I'll be honest, I'm not really like riding high on this game. Like, after seeing it too, I'm like, it looks the same as the other one did with some new stuff. And I don't know if I'm really into it. And I was looking to the number one comment on the thing was like, other game companies watching Nintendo, now they're going to copy them. I'm like, copy what?
Yeah.
Like this empty looking open world where I have to like build shit now that's inconvenient. And maybe I'll be wrong when I play the game, but right now I am not riding high on it. If anything, I went actually down a little bit. I still want to play
the ascendability.
I still want to play it, and I'm still going to give it a chance, but I'm not like one of these people who are like, this game's going to be the game of the century and blow everyone away. Just like I had watched the other one. I didn't play it, but I was like, I don't really get, like, it looks good, but I don't get what all the fuss is about.
You know it's going to be on that Game of the Year conversation, though.
Oh, for sure. Like, there's no way that it's not going to be, but it's more always going to be like, oh, well, what can you do in this world versus like, oh, man, how good was that story?
Right. So, I believe that's pretty much all that the gameplay trailer had to show off, unless there's anything else you want to bring up.
Not riding hype on it.
Okay. So
just want to double down on that.
So with that done out of the way, guys, let's move into questions of the week. Now, guys, if you want to leave a question on the show, you can do so a couple of ways. You can leave a question down in the YouTube comment section of the videos. I can grab them there. You guys can email us at lastcallproductions@gmail.com, or you can find me on social media at Craig Perales, and I can take them there. So our first question comes from TJ Keller, and they write, just saw E3 is canceled. I know you guys predicted this a while back, but what do you think happened? Yeah, Andrew, I know we were going to make this one of the main, but I was kind of thinking about it. I'm like, you can see the writing on the wall with this thing. I don't want to give it really much more any attention. Every outlet's running about it. You know, the big three were the first ones to drop, and then Ubisoft was dropping, so just to add this statement, just to kind of put it in a little more context, I guess. This comes from GameSpot, and they write, E3 2023 has been canceled. An official statement by the ESA and ReedPop confirms. The event had been scheduled to take place June 13th through 16th in Los Angeles. Goes on to say, this was a difficult decision because of all the effort we and our partners put toward making this event happen. But we had to do what's right for the industry and what's right for E3, said ReedPop's Kyle Marsden-Keish in a statement shared with GameSpot. We appreciate and understand that interested companies wouldn't have playable demos ready, and that resourcing challenges made being at E3 this summer an obstacle they couldn't overcome. For those who did commit to E3 2023, we're sorry. We can't put on the showcase you deserve and that you've come to expect from ReedPop's event experiences. I mean, they can say all they want about they didn't have demos. The simple fact is, nobody wants to do this anymore, and we've been,
especially after Ubisoft pulled out.
Yeah, we've been seeing that. It's especially we've moved past it. It's been gone for so long that it's not a thing anymore. And the thing that it isn't what it used to be. I mean, the fact that I think what sucks now is everyone doing a digital showcase. That's the way to go. That's the way everyone's moving. They just haven't made them all great yet. And once everyone starts making great showcases and directs and things like that, then this was really just a thing of the past. What's interesting is, like, will there ever be something? I remember somebody was saying, like, will the big three ever be under the same roof again to show off stuff? I'm like, yeah, they do it at the Game Awards every year when they talk about trailers and games and new stuff. So I don't know. Did you see this coming a mile away? I'm pretty sure we both did.
Yeah, I mean, especially too. Once I read Ubisoft pulled out, I'm like, well, that's kind of nail in the coffin. I don't know who else is going to really kind of be there. I'm disappointed. I personally loved E3, or at least what it used to be. I kind of hate the way that it is now, getting game information spread out over the year. I don't feel like there's been like 2 Sony events and maybe like a Nintendo one here or there where I'm like, man, that was actually really, really good, and maybe kind of gave me feelings of E3. Other than that, I feel like all the other digital events have been like, they've been okay. None of them have been like, oh man, holy shit, like that was it. That was thebomb.com. And I think personally too, even though he's far more successful than I am, Summer Games Fest run by Geoff Keighley sucks. Like, I do not think it's been like that. He'll have like 1 or 2 things and he'll be like, oh man, we're doing these great things that have never been done. I'm like, dude, the Game Awards are more interesting than this is. Like, I have not been into it the past like 2-3 years that he's been doing it. And I appreciate that he is doing something else and trying, but like, it ain't there, man. Yeah, because one of the biggest things a lot of people kind of forget is that, or don't even consider, is it costs a lot of money to do these things. Microsoft has to, if Microsoft's going, they've got to buy the floor space. They've got to pay for employees to go that are getting meals and hotels, and then they got to set up their booths and all this stuff. So
And that was probably a lot cheaper back in the day, right? Where now it's probably millions of dollars that these guys have to do, where it's like, why are we doing this again when we could just put on our own? I agree with Andrew, though, because I don't like a lot of stuff being peppered out through the calendar year. If it's done well, it's done well, but I prefer big drops. So what I'm just hoping they do more of is, instead of having, 3 Nintendo Directs every 6 months, like, just do a big Nintendo one in June. Do a big Xbox one in September. Do a big Sony one. It's like, and then make that be your big thing. Like, do a hour-long, maybe hour and a half long showcases where it's all your stuff. Because like you're saying, there's 2 good state of plays. There was a really good Nintendo Direct. But how many Nintendo Directs were just kind of like, that's skip? This Nintendo Direct, you're just talking about the Mario movie? Like, you know what I mean? I want a more focus instead of spread out. Like, give me all your goodness at once. It doesn't have to be at E3, and it doesn't have to be during summer, but give me one big showcase from you. Give me one big Ubisoft one. Give me one big Xbox one. That's kind of what more I want.
I think Nintendo more so kind of gets a pass on it for whatever reason. They always do. I mean, I give them the pass on it because I don't expect them to. But like Microsoft and Sony, it's like, dude, stop hammering me with these like B and C conferences and give me like a solid A conference. And it sucks because when they do one, then the next one's like, all right, well, here's, I don't know. I can't think of
There's more Redfall gameplay.
I can't, yeah.
You've been showing off the same thing for the last 6 events you've done.
Here's gameplay you've seen a million times and something no one asked for. And then here's like a little indie game to go with it. And, hey, we'll see you guys later.
Need a piece of cheese.
Yeah, and I'm just like, dude, yeah. I don't care.
So as far as E3 being done, we knew it was coming. It sucks because it was something that was, they called it the Super Bowl of video games, but it's just that time has came and that time is gone.
I know, and that was always the big thing too. It's like, this was your time to put your stamp on it. That was always the big one. That's what everyone would talk about for the rest of the summer, because you're getting all that big news at once. And then who won E3 was always the conversation. Yeah. And we used to have lots of really good ones. And now without that competition, it's like everyone kind of just does whatever whenever they want to, because nobody cares about competing with each other anymore. And it's like, no, that's kind of what you need to do, is like, get me invested in your economy with what you're doing, not just, this is in the pipeline, we'll get to it eventually.
Yeah, because I miss the days of being like, all right, E3, everyone's coming over, we're going to watch this Xbox is at this time, Sony's at this time, but it's like, I don't need 4 Microsoft events. Give me one big one and say, hey, it's on this day. So yeah, hopefully when we get closer to summer, because I know obviously Sony's doing its own thing, Nintendo's doing its own thing, Microsoft, I think theirs was like a day before E3 was supposed to be. So hopefully we can see something, and maybe this is the new thing. Maybe it's just the same thing as it would have been, just instead of being ran and they got to pay money to do E3, they're just going, hey, we can pick the same days, and Sony will go on the 16th, Microsoft goes on the 17th, so maybe we'll see something like that. But
just give me my goddamn Konami showcase and give me Castlevania remakes and Metal Gear remakes multi-plat, please.
Please. So, thank you for the question. The next question comes from Jamie Lawrenson, and they write, I was reading that the last Ronin from TMNT is being looked at for a new game, and they're saying it will play like God of War. That sounds amazing. Are you excited? So, yeah, it's not so much that it's going to play like God of War. It's just that they want to make a AAA game in the style of like a God of War. So, let's not spoil anything of who the Ronin is, because we do know that, it is a graphic novel. I think it came out in like 2020. I actually just ordered it today because I thought I had it and I don't, so I actually ordered it today. But Polygon had this to say about it, and again, the article is bigger, so if you want to check it out, link in the description. It says, like the comic, the last Ronin video game adaptation will be darker, more mature, take on the typically colorful Ninja Turtles, according to Doug Rosen, Senior Vice President for Games and Emerging Media at Paramount Global. The rights holder for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. In an interview with Polygon last week, Rosen likened the upcoming third-person action role-playing game to Sony's recent God of War titles and said it will be authentic to the story of the last Ronin arc, which is set in a future where only one of the turtles has survived. So yeah, at this point in the story, which I don't think is a spoiler, is the whole concept is you're playing the last surviving turtle, who, because everyone else has been killed. Usually you can tell by their mask color. His mask color isn't there anymore. They're wearing black. Splinter's dead, and he uses all the weapons from his fallen brothers plus his to go seek revenge. Awesome, right? This thing is dark, gritty. Before I ask you a question, what do you think of this news? Do you think this is a good stuff?
Yeah, no, I think it sounds really, really good. I'm actually really interested in it. I don't think for what it says, like compared to God of War, like maybe combat wise, but I don't need like all the crazy gore or whatever, especially for like a Turtles game. If they want to include that, sure. But I picture more almost like the third Arkham game, because that one was kind of like the darkest one, especially that version of Scarecrow or something. So give me something that plays as good as those Arkham games, especially too because Turtles takes place in a big city. I would be all about that.
Yeah, because they haven't said who's going to make it, and they are saying that it's going to take some time, a few years. So,
Turtle Rock?
Well, Big Apple, 3 a.m. What's weird is it's weird who owns the actual rights. I know Nickelodeon has a big chunk of Ninja Turtles, but at the same time, WB has done a lot with them. It's like as far as them being in like Mortal Kombat games and things like that. So I was trying to think of who would be a good studio, and obviously WB would be good if, with things like Rocksteady, Monolith, Avalanche Studios could do something. I was thinking you could do something like Ubisoft, I guess, but I just wouldn't, because like Andrew was saying, it's already in that small city. Something that's already used assets from like Gotham Knights is perfect. WB Montreal with Gotham Knights, like that's a perfect style city to make the Turtles. But I could see something that's in the vein of like playing like a Far Cry or like an Assassin's Creed, just not that big, right? We don't need a whole world. It doesn't need to travel to countries. Focus, because I imagine Assassin's Creed or like that's really focused on just a city.
Right.
I can see that being really, really cool. And I'm curious of how far. I hope it's not. I mean, it's one thing to say like if Sony were to pick it up and do a first party with like Insomniac. I mean, I wouldn't. I would like it to be cross-platform, you know what I mean? I want it to play on everything because I want many people to get their hands on this, but, I mean, I don't know, that's kind of who I would think would grab this thing, or at least who I think is capable of doing it. Or what about, who does Titanfall? That's
Oh, I can't even think
Respawn?
Right, yeah.
I mean, something like after playing Jedi Fallen Order, like, that'd be an interesting one to do.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of people out there that could really kind of do something with this, but again, I lean more towards like those Batman teams because that's more what I would picture out of what I want for this game.
Yes, sir.
Maybe this is what they should have worked on instead of that Suicide Squad game.
So yeah, that's coming, and again, this is just the tip of the iceberg. There's going to be more to come, but really not much more to say after that. So thank you. And the final question comes from JS, and they write, did you guys see the trailer for the new Secret Invasion show from Marvel? Do you think this looks good and is a must-see or passable like a few of their other shows? I don't know. What do you think about it?
I think it looks better than some of their other shows, but at this point, I don't know if I'm kind of like just like marveled out. I feel like everything post-Thanos, except for I actually really liked Multiverse of Madness, but everything else is just kind of like fizzled for me. That the only thing I have like hope for on the horizon would be like Guardians. And that's really it. Everything else, I'm just like, ugh.
Yeah, I was looking at it, and clearly this is, the Nick Fury kind of point where it's I believe this is gonna be where it pivots into the new Avengers, right? I think so. So it sucks that it's a show. I mean, I like their shows. I don't love their shows. The only thing I'm liking about this is that this looks like it's more Shield centric than Avengers centric. So it's gonna be more of the chasing spies and who's kind of infiltrating who, because the whole concept is about that Skrulls have been slowly infiltrating all of the nation's highest points, and now how we're gonna deal with that when this guy is the president of this and that. So it's gonna be like some cool espionage kind of stuff, but I'm with you. I'm a little just burned out. I mean, it's gonna be necessary because it's gonna be the jumping off point for Secret Wars, and that's what I want to see. I want to see Secret Wars. The Secret Invasion is really just the stepping stone at this point.
Yeah, I just hope they keep like it, since it's supposed to be leading to a darker story-ish, that they keep a darker tone with this and not make it like Corn Dog, where I'm just like, Fury's cracking off jokes every 10 seconds and now it's like a buddy cop comedy. Like I feel like sometimes they just, or I don't know what they're doing with the tone of their show, that I'm just like, I'm just not feeling this at all. Like, I don't understand why you think this is what people wanted, but it ain't it. Yeah,
it's coming out June 21st, so it's going to be real quick here. I'm just kind of looking through some of the cast. It's just going to be, at least it's going to be a little more grounded. It's not going to be over the top CGI, hopefully. And I am curious what they do with the Skrulls, because they've been slowly planning this into the MCU forever. And it's like, okay, well, when is that going to matter? This looks like it's going to be the final time to actually say what they're going to say with them.
I think it's just maybe not weird, but kind of like we've known about the Skrulls forever since like Captain America, and then they were even featured in Spider-Man, and it's like they've been like good people up until now. So it's like, okay, well, like where's this like explain to me where the shift is coming from. I hope you do that, not just like, oh well, they're bad guys now.
So yeah, not much to say about that. When the show comes out, give it a run, and then maybe we'll give it a review and see what the action was all about. So that is the end of this episode, guys. That brings a close to episode 164. Join us next time, guys, on episode 165. So until next time, guys, my name is Craig Perales. This fellow is Andrew Montemayor. Cheers.
See ya.